Welcome to Fantasy Football Court. We are four regular guys talking all things fantasy football. Unlike some other shows, we only talk about fantasy football. We make our arguments, we present our cases, and you are the judge. We are all in the same fantasy football league. The people are real, the league is real, and the trash talking is real. Court is now in session. Welcome again to Fantasy Football Court. We're glad to have you for this episode. My name is Charles.
My name is Andrew.
My name is Nick.
And I'm Jeremy.
Today we're going to look at the Tennessee Titans. We're going to put them on the stand and examine and question every position that could help you in your fantasy league. But before we get started, I do want to say this. We've been getting hit with a lot of questions about when are we going to cover the individual positions, what ranking, and where we would draft them. We're going to do all of that, but for these shows, we're just looking at the 32 teams. What's your brief overview, just off the top of your head, Jeremy, for the Tennessee Titans?
Potential. You have a lot of young players on this team that are just now beginning to come into their own, and you see a lot of potential of what could happen. May not, but it could.
Potential. Nick, you got any?
Yeah, same way, potential. They have a lot of young, good players, so they have a lot of potential, especially at the quarterback position with Marcus Mariota.
They seem to have surrounded Marcus Mariota with some talent via the draft, and I agree with them. I think Tennessee could possibly be a big fantasy producing team.
Yeah, when I look at the Tennessee Titans, I see potential, but I also see something exciting. I think they're going to be fun team to watch this year. A lot of great players, and there's going to be some that's going to impact the fantasy teams.
Yeah, I think so. Let's go ahead and start breaking down the team position-wise, and we'll cover the most important one first, and that being the quarterback. We know that Marcus Mariota is the quarterback, and I think that he could possibly have the best year he's ever had in his career. We'll go ahead and start with Nick on this one. Do you have any?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the quarterback?
Yeah, I like Marcus Mariota this year. If he can stay consistent, because that offensive line improved a lot last year, and if he can stay consistent, has the potential to be a top 5 quarterback in fantasy this year. He has loads of potential. He can run, he can throw, he has loads of accuracy, and he just has so much potential to be a huge fantasy producer for you this year. In the middle of the season last year, when the offensive line started hitting their gelling together, he was, I think, weeks 5 through 12, he was the number 1 scoring player in fantasy, or scoring quarterback in fantasy last year.
And if I remember right, my man here, did you not drop him?
Yes, I believe he started doing good because I dropped him. That's just a theory.
With Marcus Mariota, toward the end of last year, we began to see him develop into the quarterback we all think he will be. And that excites me. I will tell you, I've got him in my top 12 as a top 12 quarterback this year. I don't know where his average draft. Where's 11, his average draft?
11 right
11
now.
11 quarterback. I will tell you, if he is my starting quarterback and I'm able to get him later on in the draft and be able to subsidize him with some higher quality running backs and wide receivers, my feelings will not be hurt at all.
No.
I think that by the end of the year, he'll be a solid top 12 quarterback and worthy of being your starter on a week-to-week basis.
This is the first year where I would probably even consider drafting him.
Yeah, I had him at number 10, I think, one of our rankings, and with just the loads of talent they surrounded him with this year with the receivers and the running backs are getting with DeMarco Murray.
What do you think of the quarterback?
Like they said last year, as we saw him play, the farther in the season we got, the better he got.
He did.
Started off the first of the year, he struggled at the long passes, 20-plus yards. That got better as the year went on. I think he's getting more comfortable with it. He's surrounded with the right players now, and I agree. I think he's going to have a big breakout year. Another thing, too, that stands out with him last year was his sack total dropped drastically towards the later on in the season, before he got hurt. That sack total went down, the offensive line got better, and if they can stay strong, he's going to be a good quarterback to have on your team.
It sounds like we're looking for Tennessee, step aside from fantasy. Looks like Tennessee could be a contender this year in the NFL.
They have the players.
I think they absolutely will be a playoff team, and could. I think this year, with getting back to Mariota in fantasy football, I think this past year he realized that he was not in Eugene anymore.
Right.
That he cannot play in the NFL like he did college and just be smarter, better, and faster than everybody else. And I think because he is a smart very cerebral quarterback. I think that he realized he had to adapt his play, and last year, middle season toward the end, he began to adapt
saw that,
to
yeah.
the type of quarterback he needs to be.
I think we're all in agreement. If later in the draft you don't have a quarterback and it's time for you to get one, I don't think any of us would be hurting. You know, we wouldn't have a problem with this guy being available to us. I think
Not
we're
at all.
talking later in the draft now. We're talking, you know, maybe 8th, 9th round, maybe. Is that a little high? Or
I think
Nah.
I didn't take last year. I took Roethlisberger at round 8, so
Yeah.
I would say 9, 10.
Yeah.
Once you have, for me, once I have 4 running backs and 4 wide receivers, I'll then look at a tight end or a quarterback,
Okay.
whichever one makes more sense.
All right. I think we're all in agreement on that. You're not going to, and what you're going to see in the future shows, you'll see the disagreements or maybe the arguments when we start breaking down those position players of who to draft when and who you have over somebody else. But when we're just covering the teams, we're just basically giving you generic, basic information, but still information that will help your fantasy football team. The next position we're going to look at is running backs. Who'd I go to first? Nick? Jeremy, I think we'll go with you.
Last year, DeMarco Murray had 346 touches, 1,664 combined yards, 53 catches, 12 TDs.
That's good.
I think this year that Derrick Henry will eat into those numbers a little because they've got a second-round pick invested into Derrick, and there's
Derrick
some
has been a good running back. He's
Derrick's
not giving
a
them
solid-
any you got a good problem if you're Tennessee.
Oh,
You got
yeah.
a good problem to have. You've got 2 good running backs. But at this point, DeMarco
But I
is
still think this year DeMarco Murray gets 1,500 plus yards, 50 plus catches, 10 TDs.
I'll take
Because
that.
I think that Derrick, I love Derrick to death. He's like another son to me that I didn't really want. But Derrick's slow in his first 2 steps.
Yeah.
And I think that that's going to hurt him going forward. And so DeMarco Murray, he has, if you watch him on video, his first 3 steps are quick.
Yeah, he's fast. I think he definitely surprised a lot of people last year of how well he did. Nick, any thoughts on the running back?
Yeah, I mean, I like DeMarco Murray a lot this year. He was the number 5 running back last year, fantasy producer in PPR. So I don't see no reason for that to drop off any. I think they're going to try to get Derrick Henry some touches, but I'm not as high on Derrick Henry. I don't touch Derrick Henry to me personally.
Derrick Henry's my handcuff if I have DeMarco Murray. That's the only reason I draft him.
Probably so. That's the only
Yeah,
reason I
because
probably
you've got a
draft
starting
him.
running back either way. DeMarco Murray is being the 7th overall running back taken right
I was
now.
about to say, if you're at the end of round 1, do you draft DeMarco Murray?
Yes.
I believe so, yes.
I think so. Yeah, I would feel comfortable doing that. But you got to understand, Derrick Henry is going to eat into some of that. But you only have a few teams where there's one running back that's not going to have their points, fed off.
Well,
of.
that's why there's such a huge
Right.
gap between the top 3 running backs
and everybody else.
and everybody else. Well, you've got 2 in that mid-range. I have the top 3, then I have Melvin Gordon and LaShawn McCoy, and then there's another gap to everybody
Yeah,
else
we can
because
make that argument.
those 2 doesn't really have as many people.
But those
leading
2 are not
dash.
in the other 3's
Absolutely
level.
not.
Okay. Any thoughts on DeMarco Murray? You had him last year.
I had him last year.
He did
He
good
was
for
one
you.
of my best performers last year. My top fantasy guy. I still like DeMarco Murray. I think he's got the experience under his belt. He's still a strong, hard runner. And Derrick Henry might cut into it, but I still think DeMarco Murray's going to have a big year this year.
Yeah, there's no reason to doubt that.
Another thing I like about DeMarco Murray, though, this past year was the targets he received as coming out of the backfield. He had 3 receiving touchdowns. He was targeted 67 times at 377 yards receiving, and I like that a lot. That was a big
lot
deal.
of points.
53 catches. That's 53 points in a PPR league.
Absolutely,
That's
yes.
big. There's some running backs that I don't believe Ezekiel Elliott had that many at all.
No.
So there's some running backs that don't catch the
Alfred
ball.
Morris got most of the pass catching yards
Yeah.
in Dallas.
What I didn't like about that situation, and we'll move on, but every 3rd possession they put in that other running
Alfred
back,
Morris.
Alfred Morris, and it drove me crazy because I'm an Ezekiel Elliott owner, but that's just a system that they had, and there was nothing I could do about it. I don't know if they're going to do that again this year, but that's what they did.
I have not heard on that. I know Alfred, his trainer, is a good friend of mine, but
Hopefully
I
we'll
haven't
find
really
out
heard.
more when we come to
Yeah, we'll
Dallas.
find out more when we come to Dallas. I'll find out before Dallas.
All right. really, there's no other running backs besides Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray. Would y'all agree?
Agree.
I mean, there's nobody even worth talking about. Derrick Henry is currently the 35th running back taken off the board. I don't think any of us would say that you don't draft Derrick Henry at the.
I think you're
later-
overdrafting at 35, though.
But-
The
but-
35th running
But
back.
he does get drafted.
But he does get drafted.
Right.
On your, I mean, if he's there at the last round and nobody's taking him, you're taking a shot.
I'm
at
gonna
him.
I'm gonna
He'll
tell
make it
you
to the
though.
last round.
No,
I
he
know,
won't.
but I'm gonna tell you this: there's gonna be a lot of people
That
that
reach
are
for
gonna
him.
make the mistake of thinking Derrick Henry,
I agree.
because he won a Heisman Trophy, is gonna have a breakout year. Well, if you go back and look at statistics, there has not been a Heisman Trophy winning running back in the last several years that's had a great year in the NFL. So don't look for Derrick to break that trend this year.
Well, the biggest thing in college is like most of his runs were these 50 and 60-yard runs, and that's where he got most of his stats. And I don't see that happen a lot in the NFL.
No, it doesn't. All right, covered the running back position. Let's look at the wide receivers. Nick, I'll start with you with the wide receivers. What are your opinions on those?
So Tennessee's wide receivers are,
Eric Decker, for
Rashard
sure.
Matthews.
Eric Decker, Rashard Matthews, and they drafted Corey Davis, number 5 overall. Corey Davis seems like he's the type that's not gonna. The first half of the season might not produce for you, and it's going to be more of the second half of the season receiver for you. But Eric Decker is an interesting one because he is targeted a lot in the red zone. New York Jets, he was one of the top touchdown receivers in the NFL, and that helping Marcus Mariota, who's one of the more efficient passers in the red zone, that connection could be really valuable. And you might, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to overdraft him where a lot of people's projected him. As far as Rashard Matthews goes, he was their number 1 receiver last year. Now he's all of a sudden their number 3 receiver. I think you're going to see him as more of your number 2 receiver, more in the first half of the year, and then I think you're going to see Corey Davis take more of that number 2 role. And I think you're probably going to draft them around the same area.
The only wide receiver I'm interested in on this team is Eric Decker to draft. And with Eric Decker, I see a lot. He has always reminded me of Wes Welker. And I think that he'll have a Wes Welker type year where he'll get a lot of catches, a lot of touches, maybe not have huge touchdown production, but I think he's good for close to 100 receptions and 1,000 yards.
Yeah, currently he's the 36th receiver being taken in fantasy football draft.
I disagree with that. I like Corey Davis. I think you're not going to get the production at the start of the season, but I think he could be a real stud at the end of the season for you.
Thoughts on the receivers?
I like Corey Davis a lot, like Nick, and I think he's going to make a bigger impact earlier than what people think. He lit it up in college football the last 4 years. He
Yes.
he set the record with 5,278 receiving yards, and a lot of those came against Big Ten defenses.
Yeah.
Do you really think a Big Ten defense
Some
is
of the-
all that great?
I think
That's
some
the
of
only
those
competition.
yeah,
but
I
at
mean,
least the competition
yeah.
he had, he did well. He can't help, the defense.
Yeah, but with the
Yes,
team
but
around
still.
him, he's still playing with that smaller school quarterback and smaller school offensive line, smaller school everything else around
And for him to still
And
have
he's a
those
big
numbers,
player.
I'm impressed. He is a big player, 6'3", and I think he's going to make an immediate impact on that team. I really do.
He's currently the 40th receiver taken off the board, just a couple behind.
Yeah, I
Eric
think he's
Decker,
going to have a
so-
little bit of a slow start, but I think week 5, week 6, you're going to hit him stride, and you might have a stud at the end of the season.
Let's go back to Eric Decker real briefly. What are your thoughts on Eric Decker?
I'm kind of a toss-up on Eric Decker. I think he can be that great slot receiver. He's proven it in the
But
past.
he's supposed to be their number 1.
With the Jets, is he going to be number 1?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Corey Davis gets that at the end of the season, but I think
I
he's going to be
think
the
I
big
got
red
him
zone
sitting
type.
at
I think
a
he-
slot with Corey Davis.
Yeah, I
right
think
now.
he's going to be their big red zone.
Eric Decker may be their number 1 receiver, but he'll be up from the slot. I don't see them
Yes.
lining him up out wide.
I don't either. I don't
and,
either.
and right now they're saying he's
So-
not going to, so he's going to be coming out of the slot. He's been good in the past. You can't really take his time at the Jets and count it for anything because
Yeah.
That's not
it
fair
was
to
a
him.
horrible offense. It was not very fair to him. In the past, he's done good. I don't know. I mean, he's getting up there in age. I'm not sure.
Like,
Just Eric Decker briefly, what do you think?
Also, I was thinking, isn't he more of an injury-prone guy?
Eric Decker?
Yeah, 'cause I don't know if that's the case in NFL. I know going back to college he was, He constantly was hurt in college, but I'm not sure about the NFL. I know he was hurt last year. We'll see how he progresses from that injury
Thoughts
last
on Eric
year.
Decker?
One more good year.
One more good year. All right.
He's 30 years old, by the way.
All right, let's move on to the tight ends. And, Mariota has got a good system around him. And does that include the tight ends, Jeremy?
Delaney Walker, I would say if I used one word to describe Delaney Walker, I'd say average. I think he's a good check down guy, that he'll get some what I call trash points just by being the third option that he checks to, or the safety valve. I don't expect big numbers from him, but I just average is where I put him.
I think this will surprise you. He finished as a third tight end last year. That surprised me.
The number
I-
3
number
tight
three.
end.
I
tight
had
end.
him. I had him at number 4 tight end.
I'm talking about that's where he finished last year.
That's
I'll
I
take,
had him at 4.
I'll take that. Of course, every
Obviously,
football site has
Obviously,
different
I did
scoring.
not study enough for today.
Does his,
Well, no,
Or I would have known that.
No, well, we look. That's why there's 4 of us. We're like an attorney's team. What one don't cover, the other will, and we'll try to get you the information. But that surprised me. I mean, that he was the 3rd best tight end or 4th. I mean, he was in that upper level.
Yeah, he
I wouldn't
was.
have thought that. But that does
Well,
surprise
I know
me.
toward the end of the season he started stepping up, because I know somebody else had him in the league. He hurt me both games I played that guy.
Yeah.
And but I think he'll take a step back this year. He's getting older, and the more younger, better receiving options around Mariota. He's no longer your your number 1 or number 2 option. These receivers, these Eric Decker and Corey Davis and Rashard Matthews are your go-to guys. I'm not.
So is
Delaney
it,
Walker's going to be more of a middle of the road.
Right now,
I was going to say, is it one of those deals with Delaney Walker where there's too much around him that he suffers, or is all the talent around him open it up where he gets better
Probably.
play? Which one do you think?
I think it's more the first. I think there's so much talent around him. I think they're better,
There's not enough touches
better
that go
receiver.
around the
Yeah,
ball.
and I don't, because he's getting older. I don't buy him.
He
to
is
do much
33 years old. He's
this
currently
year.
the 6th tight end that's being drafted. That's pretty high. That's pretty
Yeah,
high.
I would-
I'm guessing neither one of y'all are that high on him.
No.
I'll be honest with you, I've not looked that close to all of my tight ends to get my rankings, so I
Okay.
don't know yet.
I want to say I had him around the 9 or 10 mark.
What do you
I'm
think
not
of Delaney
100%
Walker?
sure.
Delaney Walker, I think he's a solid tight end. I mean, I don't know how much longer he can keep it up. I'm interested. I don't know if he'll be a breakout this year or how much we'll see him. I think we'll see him some, but Janu Smith that they recruited as the backup, he's going to be the backup tight end, but he has the build that's more along the lines of the tight ends you see in the league today, some of the bigger tight ends. And some of the stuff I've been seeing about him, I think he might actually get in there a little bit. And that's going to affect Delaney Walker
Oh,
a little bit.
This might be Delaney
And
Walker's last year.
we're going to see, I think, maybe a little bit of a 2 tight end set. Again, there's so many weapons in that offense. But I think because of those reasons, Delaney Walker's productivity is going to go down just a little bit because of those.
Okay. All right. Let's look at the defense now. We have to cover them because you have to put a defense in and a kicker in, so we'll briefly cover them. Nick, any thoughts on the defense?
Woeful secondary. They drafted Dory Jackson, but he's a smaller guy. I think he's more maybe the Honey Badger type, more suited as a safety than a corner. And what their biggest need is corner, and I think that's what they drafted him as, was a corner. So their secondary was one of the worst in the league last year. I don't see it getting much better. They have a decent defensive line and okay linebackers, but they're bottom defense, and that's going to hurt them a lot.
Jeremy, any thoughts on defense?
I would not draft them. They maybe look at matchups, and if they're playing the Browns or the Jets, according to who the other teams are playing that week, you may look at them in a position thing like that. But even then, I would be careful.
Yeah, I'm not really. I don't really have much to say about the defense. I just don't really care that much for them.
Me neither. I don't have much
Okay.
on him.
All right. Let's look at the kicker. Jeremy, any thoughts on the kicker?
I don't even know who their kicker is.
We don't cover kickers well.
We just mentioned them because we have to.
The kicker's Ryan Suckup.
Okay. Ron's had decent years in the past.
He has, but last year his field goal percentage was low because the Titans had the highest percentage in the red zone
Yeah, and I
for
think-
scoring touchdowns.
Which hurts your
And so
kicker.
his fantasy
Yeah.
points were not that great. As far as a kicker, he's in the bottom half.
Well,
Yeah,
I would,
be
like I
down.
said, I would think that this year the Titans will have as good of red zone numbers this year as last year, if not
Yeah.
better. So I wouldn't expect that to change too much.
All right. Let's just give a brief overview again of the Tennessee Titans, and then we'll close it up. Andrew, any lasting thoughts?
A lot of fantasy potential, I think, in several of the positions.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely some players on this team you want on your players on the Tennessee Titans you want on your team. It's just a matter of is it a good value of where you can get them at. Nick?
Yeah, it has the potential to be a top 5 fantasy producing offense this year.
Jeremy?
Mariota and Murray, get them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Andy?
All right, hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at FFPort.
If you have any questions, anything you want us to touch, want us to play in your league, anything like that, private messages, DM us, something like that, and we'll get back with you. Or maybe even cut a video answering your question.
All right. Court is adjourned.